Hi everyone, it's Alistair Clark here from stuntlives.com. I've got a brand new video for you this week with a guy called Tom McComas. Really funny guy, really great guy, and not to mention a very, very talented stunt performer. He's appeared in so many films. It's just like, where do you start? You know, he's appeared in The Dark Knight, Die Hard 4, Pineapple Express, Yes Man, doubling up for Jim Carrey. I won't ruin the surprise for you. You know, you need to watch the interview to see who he actually is the official stunt double for, but then also what TV series that his first ever stunt performance was. So I'll have to watch the interview. Speaking of which, I hope you sit back and enjoy this new interview. Many thanks. Catch you later. Basically, I just wanted to chat to you about your stunt work, you know, how you started, your favourite stunts, that sort of thing. If you don't mind, you know, how did you get into stunts and why did you get into stunts as well?
It's kind of a funny story. I used to race motorcycles professionally. I raced for 6 years, road racing, the kind where you lean over and you put your knee on the ground. And I crashed at Road Atlanta and destroyed the motorcycle and owed the bank $14,000 for the motorcycle. And didn't really have a way to continue to race. So I moved to California and I wound up getting a job at the William Morris Agency. And I was there for a couple months. My agent called me into his office and he said, "Tom, I think you'd be a great agent, but you're not a very good assistant." And I said, "Well, are you promoting me or are you firing me?" And he said, "Oh, I'm not making you an agent." And I said, "Okay, well, to be honest with you, Jim, I don't want to be an agent or an assistant." He goes, "What do you want to do?" He goes, "I want to be a stuntman." He goes, "What?" I go, that's what I want to do. And he goes, "Well, I know one guy and I'll introduce you to him. And then from there, it's up to you." I said, "That's more than I could ask for." Mm-hmm. So after that, I met that one guy. He kind of taught me how the business worked. And I haven't had a real job since then. Mm-hmm. I've been a professional stuntman for the last 20 years. And so motorcycles are kind of, I played football in college and I played lacrosse in college and I started racing motorcycles in college. And so with that background, I felt confident that I could succeed as a stuntman, and it's worked out all right so far.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, you obviously have to be physically fit, and that's where the football and the lacrosse comes into it. So yeah.
I mean, the falling down, being tackled or tackling people and hitting people, the physical contact is kind of one of the main things that prepared me. And then racing also, I found out I was better at crashing than I was at winning national championships. So I figured I'd capitalize on my strengths.
Right. No, nice one. Right. Well, what made you actually, you know, you wanted to become an agent? So what was the light bulb moment for you to say, you know what, I wouldn't mind giving stunts a go?
Well, I actually just took that job at the agency just because I was desperate for a job, any job. Mm-hmm. I really didn't have the aspirations of being a Hollywood agent. I just kind of took the assistant job and read a book called "What Color Is Your Parachute?" And it's a big, thick book. And it basically has a series of exercises that teach you what you're good at or what you're passionate about. And so after finishing that book, I was like, you know, I like to I like to ride fast. I like to do wheelies. I like to drive cars fast. I like to jump off rooftops. I get in fights. Stuntman, it's a natural. And so that's kind of how I never really grew up wanting to be a stuntman. I just happened to move to California. After I finished racing, I was living in Chicago, and I moved to California just because I wanted to be in California with no idea of what I wanted to do. I just geographically wanted to be in California, and read that book, "What Color Is Your Parachute?" Figured out I wanted to be a stuntman, and that was it.
Okay. And you met up with this one guy, and you know, that was the stepping stone for you to get into that career then.
It's actually kind of funny. My agent didn't accept any phone calls. His main rule to me was you never let a call through to me. I'm always unavailable. And so except for this one guy, his name was Johnny C. and he would call up and he'd be like, "Tommy, it's Johnny C." I go, "Hold on, Mr. C." And I'd go, "Jim, I have Johnny C for you." You go, "Put him right through." And I didn't understand why. It turns out the guy is a connected guy. He's a mafia guy,
Right.
And he's also he was, and then he's a writer, and he does some stunts. So Johnny was the guy that taught me how to get into the stunt business. So he's like, "Tommy, here's what you got to do," and he taught me how to go to sets, when they're shooting, and find the stunt coordinator. And he taught me how to put a resume together. And I didn't really have any films on there. I just had pictures of me racing motorcycles, playing football and lacrosse, and find a stunt coordinator, and then introduce myself at the right moment, because there's a lot of pitfalls involved with going to a set, actual live hot set where they're shooting, and no one wants you there. Production's trying to do their job, and you're not part of their job, so you're kind of a nuisance. But to the stunt coordinator, if you get him at the right time, you can be an asset, because as it turned out for me, when I hustled the movie Armageddon, the assistant to the stunt coordinator said, "You look a lot like one of our lead actors," which turned out to be Ben Affleck. And I've done 16 films with him as his stunt double since then.
Wow. Okay. Right. Are you going to be working on the latest Justice League and then the standalone Batman film?
No, there's a couple I've missed. It's funny, for whatever reason, there's some politics involved, but I didn't do Daredevil, and I haven't done the new Batmans. I would have loved to, but there's some. You may have heard there's some politics in our business.
Yes.
And so the powers that be didn't allow that to happen. But it's the way I look at it is you think you know what's best for you, and a lot of times in retrospect, when you get what you want, you find out, maybe that wasn't the best for me. So I don't know what's best for me. I just kind of keep going, keep moving forward, and what lands in front of on my plate lands on my plate. What doesn't.
Definitely, I like that attitude. Definitely, but then again, you appeared in a Batman film anyway, The Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's right. Before he was Batman, I did The Dark Knight, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
So I've worked on Batman movies before, right?
Yeah, definitely. So, do you remember your first stunt? Was Armageddon the first film that you say appeared?
No, it's funny. My first job in the business. I just actually texted the stunt coordinator, because it was I think it was either 96 or 97. So this is either my 20th year in the business or my 19th, depending on the day that he hired me. And I was going to ask him if he knew what day that was, because I don't. It was on a TV show called Baywatch.
Right. Okay.
With David Hasselhoff, and his regular stunt double had gotten hurt. So he called this guy, Greg Barnett, called me in to double David Hasselhoff. And I had to tackle a bad guy. And since they call it a bulldog in stunts. And since he saw that I had played college football, he figured out that I could probably tackle somebody.
Right. Okay. But what a show to start from then, Baywatch.
Love it. That was my first job.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. And what were your thoughts when you were had that call up to do your first ever stunt? What was that like?
Well, it's an interesting story. It was back when we had pagers, and I don't know if you guys had pagers.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
We had pagers, and there were no cell phones at that time. And I was in a movie theater, and the page went off with a number that I didn't recognize. And I sat there for a moment, and I thought to myself, I should probably return this call. And I didn't, so I get up out of the movie, and I go to the payphone, and I don't have any change. You got to go get change. And then so I call the number, and the guy goes, "Tommy, would you like to work tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Who is this?" And I thought someone was playing a joke on me. And he's like, "It's Greg Barnett calling from Baywatch." And then it hit me that it wasn't a joke. It was actually the first time I had gotten a phone call for work. And it was like, I was like, "Greg, I'd kill to work tomorrow." And he goes, "All right, well, be here at this time, and and bring your stunt pads and be ready to tackle somebody."
Yes. Okay. So when you first, before you did your first ever stunt, did you go to a stunt school or did you learn on the job? How did it come about?
Well, like I said earlier, we with the road racing background and the football, college football, and lacrosse, I figured I was pretty confident that I had a skill set that would match well with stunts, and I met a friend who kind of taught me stunt fighting. We just in his apartment, and between my background and that guy teaching me how to fight, everything else I learned as I went.
Right. Okay. And I know it's probably really difficult to say, but what is the main stunt that you enjoy doing? Because it's probably all of them I know, but is there a specific one that you?
I like when the check comes in the mail. That's my favorite part. That's my favorite stunt, when the thing actually shows up and it clears the bank.
Yeah.
Right now, and I love motorcycles. They're like my main passion in my life. But motorcycle stunts are probably the dumbest stunts to do in the business, just because your exposure is the highest and the danger is the highest. And what I always say is any day on set as a motorcycle stuntman can be your last as a stuntman. Because it's very easy to get hurt on them, especially because you have so many more variables than just riding a motorcycle on the street or on a racetrack. So now I would say my favorite stunts now are driving.
Right.
Because they pay, most stunt guys are not motorcycle riders, so they don't pay according to the level of danger, what's appropriate. And so it's not worth it to do more. Like I just did I flipped a police car last weekend for a commercial, and that paid $3,500. Just to drive it up, and it was crashed on its side. And then a friend of mine, I was also going to do. The stunt coordinator talked to me about laying down a motorcycle, which is when you crash and the bike slides out. And he did that at 40 miles an hour. And they paid him $1,000 for that. And to me, the exposure is higher on the motorcycle laid out. You don't have a cage around you. You're on the ground. You have a 600-pound police bike. So the danger and the risk for injury are higher on the motorcycle stunt. But I made almost 4 times what he made.
Yeah. No, it is funny that actually how you come up with the different scales, etc. on it. So
they're super arbitrary, and the reality is that you don't make the money you make on a motorcycle doesn't justify the risk.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the say setting on fire? That must be quite high as well, I would have thought.
Burns are, and that's another thing is first of all, burns happen so rarely now. It's such a rare thing that happens. But yeah, burns probably pay probably the best. I just because they're so rare. Like driving a car is kind of like driving, and fights are probably the two. Fights are number one, and then driving is a close second for demand in what they need in Hollywood. And so a car chase is almost in every movie. So I think without specializing in burns, which there's a couple guys that do that. And also, burns, if it goes wrong, it's pretty catastrophic.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, I was speaking to a guy called Andy Armstrong. Do you know Andy Armstrong?
Yeah, I know Andy.
Yeah. And he was telling me the story of when he was in the film Hoffa, where he said that it took 7 times. Yeah. There's a burning bit in the film, and it took him 7 attempts to do that, to get it right. And it just fills me with dread each time I see the film and seeing behind the scenes. I just have to look away.
Tell Andy, I said if they hired me, they would have only had to do it 1 time. It took them 7 times to get that right.
Yeah. Well, he's proud of the fact that he's in the Guinness Book of Records for that as well. Yeah.
For that particular stunt?
Yep, that's what he said. Yep.
For the most amount of times it took any stuntman to achieve any stunt in history. 7 times. Andy's a great stuntman, and there's just a lot of variables that's it's camera a camera will miss it, and then you got to reshoot it again. That's the most frustrating is when you do a death-defying stunt, and there we go. There you are. You do a death-defying stunt, and they say we got to go again because the camera missed it. Actually, the biggest burn that I did, it was for I can't think of the movie. I'll tell you it in a second. But in the stunt, a guy launches a RPG at a courthouse. Of course, the entire courthouse explodes like it's packed with dynamite. But I'm a police officer standing in front of the courthouse, and the concussion from the explosion knocks me back 48 feet, and I fly backwards into the side of a SWAT van. And so the explosion engulfs me. Here I am. The explosion goes like this, and then I come flying out of the explosion, 48 feet backwards, get ratcheted into a SWAT van, and bounce off that, and have to crawl around with like 12 feet of flames burning off my back. The camera that they had, the main camera they were going to use, was on top of the van. So when I came out of the explosion, the camera tilts this way. So I go flying by camera, and then he comes back and catches a piece of me. And then when I hit the van, the barn doors, they call them on the camera, fall, like break off and swing into the shot.
All right.
And then he tries to pan down and look at me on the ground, and the doors are like in front, blocking the barn doors are blocking the shot.
Jeez.
So it was a one-time deal. Like we had 6 cars that were wrapped with cable that got turned over, and it took us all day to set up the shot. We started at 6 o'clock in the morning. We didn't do it until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, getting ready for that shot. And in the movie, you just see an explosion. And that's it. There were 3 guys that were doing backwards ratchets. One guy lands on top of a car, skips off a car. I went into the side of a van. Another guy goes to the ground. You don't see any of that in the movie.
Oh man,
the biggest stunt we did in that movie was that stunt, and none of it you don't see. You just see an explosion, and that's it.
Yeah. Oh, jeez, that must be soul destroying. Seriously.
That one was a tough one because it was so dangerous. Like if I breathed that whole time, I would have breathed in fire, and it burns your lung tissue, and lung tissue does not regenerate. So depending on how badly I got burned, I would have been, it could have been, lethal, or it could have been I just would have to carry an oxygen bottle around with me for the rest of my life.
Oh my God.
So it was a high risk stunt, and when we had told them the impact with the van, I showed them rehearsals. I hit that. It was like a UPS van. I hit that thing really, really hard. Like it would. And we said it's going to shake the van really. It's going to shake the van a lot, and so you guys be prepared for that. And we told camera that, and at the same time, it just they didn't either they didn't listen, or the camera just wasn't built to withstand that type of impact.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's frustrating.
God. Okay. And don't you think to yourself, is it worth it? Do I really want to continue with this?
Well, I don't do it for the notoriety, or I don't do it for for that one. It's like I just did it because I wanted to do it, and it was the opportunity to do it. But it would have been cool if other people could have seen it. But nobody really knows other than who didn't really see my face. So that I just do it because I like the challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
I like the reason I do it is what happens is I go into a place in my head where all the other thoughts, all the other nonsense that swirl around in your head on a daily basis, did I call my mom? Or did I pay the bill? What's my wife or my girlfriend thinking? Or all that nonsense goes away, and you just get an ultra clear vision of what you have to do. I visualize it and go over and over it in my head until the moment they say action. And when action happens, a lot of times I don't even hear anything anymore. You get tunnel vision. My vision shrinks down to exactly what I need to be able to see. And then at that point, it's almost like muscle memory. Like I don't even think about it. I just put the ball in play, the action, and it just happens. Yeah. And and afterwards, a lot of times if it's really intense, I don't even remember it because the record, it doesn't record in my brain. It's weird, but that it's like a Zen place. It's like it's like meditating almost.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I was going to say that would be a great skill to learn and harness. Obviously, if you want to get into that industry, where
and a lot of times my brain, I call it shooting at like 1,000 frames per second. Like when they shoot slow motion, it actually, you're shooting more frames per second. Like it's usually 28 frames per second in a typical movie. And if they shoot at like 250 frames, it's extreme slow motion. And my brain in those extreme situations, it seems like it goes into like a higher setting, which actually slows time down. And I'm able to make multiple decisions in like 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
Wow. And analyze, like there was a Tom Cruise movie, Minority Report, and the screen appeared out of like thin air, and he could grab with his hands, like there would be like 4 different options. He'd grab this one, and then an array of more options would come out, and he'd pick this one, and that's what it's like in my brain. And sometimes when I'm in like extreme situations, I get a lot of time to make these decisions, and the only way that's possible is with my brain. Taking more pictures per second.
Yeah. Okay. And is that something you've always had, or is it something that you developed over the time with working in the stunt profession?
No, well, racing is where I first noticed it. Like when you're going 190 miles an hour, it feels like you're going 40 miles an hour sometimes. It doesn't feel like you're going fast anymore. Your brain, you get acclimated to that speed, and then your brain goes into a higher level of consciousness, and you're able to analyze things that you normally wouldn't be able to.
Right. Okay. So we mentioned about the first ever stunt that you did on Baywatch. What has been your favorite stunt that you performed?
Breaking up with my last girlfriend.
Okay.
She was a nightmare. My favorite stunt. That one, the movie was called Alex Cross. It was Tyler Perry's first attempt at being a serious dramatic actor and not playing a black woman. And I had to turn down Argo because I was already stunt coordinating Alex Cross. And Argo turned out to be Picture of the Year, and Ben Affleck went on to become critical acclaim. And so I turned down the best movie in Hollywood to stay on one of the worst movies ever made. So in hindsight shows you, it's very unforgiving, but I had already committed to Alex Cross. And so I didn't feel that it would be appropriate to leave them and go to the Ben Affleck movie. But that one still stings a bit.
Yeah. Okay. For the record, Argo is one of my favorite films as well. I just like
that's great. That's great. Thanks. You sure know how to make a guy feel good about a bad decision. There's a moment of terror, and in that terror, you have to make the right decisions to come out successfully on the other side. And so you have terror, and then you have euphoria, all in like a very short amount of time. Which is that's my favorite part of stunts.
Yeah. Okay. And you alluded to the fact of teamwork as well. It's so important to trust your team, work well with your team, that sort of thing. So because you're basically relying on someone, your life is in their hands basically.
They are 1,000%. I mean, we had talked about if the car is upside down and I'm on, because after they all cut, we figured out, we determined at what point the shot would be over, and you wouldn't even have to listen for the director to call cut. Once the camera on this truck that I was chasing in the police car past a certain point, they said the shot would be over. So then my safety crew comes in, and I have a lead guy who would check my status. And if I'm giving him a thumbs up, he'll get on the radio and say thumbs up, and that everyone is, then we're okay.
Yep.
But if I were unconscious and upside down in the car, because I was upside down, if you're unconscious, it's a bad situation. There have been some people who've been, have received some brain damage from being unconscious and being upside down. So in that situation, the first thing we were going to do would be upright the car. We had a grate all there, like a fork. and we would upright the car as soon as possible, and then go from there. But you don't want to, like, while you're unconscious, you don't want to unbuckle me, because I would just drop to the ceiling, and if there's any type of neck and spinal cord injury, that might be exacerbated.
Yeah.
So you don't want to. You want to get the guy upright, and then I had a neck restraint system, so my neck would be okay while they flip the car over, and then hopefully I would regain consciousness by that point. But 100%, your safety, there's nothing. If I'm unconscious, there's nothing I can do. Yeah. I'm at the mercy of how good my safety crew is.
Yeah, completely. And without trying to be too morbid, how many injuries have you had, or what type of injuries have you had?
You would have gotten a kick out of seeing me get out of bed this morning. It's just, it's not a pretty sight. I've been doing this for 20 years, so I can't hold a candle to Andy Armstrong, but I'm sure he's got it's tough for him to get out of bed too, but it's all worth it. At least at this point, it's not that bad. But, I've had knee surgery, shoulder surgery, back surgery, numerous broken bones, numerous concussions, but it's all worth it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Well,
so the injury is it's just part of the deal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, as you said, in some weird way as well. For me watching it, it's worth it as well, because I can see how amazing your stunts are.
It's more worth it for you than it is for me. Believe me, it hurts me. This hurts me a lot more than it hurts you. Let me tell
you. Right. So, do you prefer doing this? What's that? Sorry.
I know, that's just funny.
So, do you prefer the stunts or stunt coordinating?
Oh, there's no question about it. For me, I enjoy the stunts, just because stunt coordinating is so secretarial on so many levels. Like, it's not just planning the stunt. That's like 30% of your job. I'd say 70% of your job is dealing with the politics of the film industry, which are like, I just don't want to, that's not why I got in the business, is to to kind of just coddle producers. I'd rather just go, I'd like to come in like I did on that job where I pipe ramped the car last week. I like to come in, set my stunt up, get my safety gear, get in the car, flip the car, and then everyone's all high-fiving and happy, and then I get to go home, and I don't think about it anymore. Like, as a stunt coordinator, you're thinking about the 10 guys that you need to make sure they're on time tomorrow morning, and that their wardrobe's right, and that their hotel's okay, and that their flights were all good, and they all made it to LA or wherever we're shooting. And it's just a lot more secretarial work that I like to come be high intensity for one day, as opposed to making sure everyone's travel arrangements are made for every day.
Right.
For 4 or 5 months on a feature film. Yep. It's just draining.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to say,
but I can't do stunts forever. So at some point, the player's got to become the coach.
Yes.
And so I've coordinated probably 20 feature films, and I'll probably do more of it. I'll probably become more Andy Armstrong and less Tom McComas if everything goes as planned. One guy I talked to I said, "How long are you going to do it for?" He said, "As long as I can point my finger, I'll be stunt coordinating."
Oh, I love that. I love it. All right. And so would you like to actually direct as well? Direct a film? A standalone?
I've directed. I've been in the DGA for about 8 years, and directing's awesome. That's definitely where I'm going. I would prefer to direct more than stunt coordinate, and the best is actually second unit directing, because you get to deal with stuntmen. You don't have to worry about actors not wanting to come out of their trailer. They actually got guys that want to do a job, and it's like they're all there for one reason, is to do the job and do the job well. And so it's nice to have stuntmen around me when you're directing, as opposed to actors or actresses that have their own agenda.
Oh, completely. Yeah, no, I can imagine that. Right. So what would you say your favorite stunt performed by someone else on TV and film? Can you think of one of them?
Yeah, there was a movie called Hooper,
right.
And it was about a stunt guy, an aging stunt guy, and some new stunt guy that was kind of the new up and coming flavor of the month. and there's a big car chase. There's a massive world record jump in there. That's amazing. But what was more amazing to me was a shot where they had this giant chimney, like it was like 20 stories tall, brick chimney, and they set off a charge at the base of it, and it fell. And as it fell, the Trans Am they're driving drove right past it as it came down. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't there, but I just know how it works. And there's no guidebook for how long that chimney is going to take to fall.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know.
Yeah.
And if that chimney landed, that brick chimney landed on top of the car would be about as thick as a pancake.
Right.
And so they had one shot at it. And I mean, you see the thing come by and it's like this.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And so that's just because that's the kind of thing that's going to get your attention. And that's the kind of thing that's going to make my vision go to slow motion. And I'm sure the same thing was happening to whoever that driver was. And it was woo! You get one take, and if it goes bad, it goes really, really, really bad.
Definitely. You got one shot as well, and you don't want the cameras failing on that either. No way.
No, you definitely don't want the cameras fading on that one. That would be frustrating.
So if you could give, say, some advice to people on if they wanted to get into the stunt profession, what would it be?
Well, first of all, a lot of people, I probably had 1,000 people come up to me and say, "Oh, I want to be a stuntman." And to be a stuntman, you have to be in America. You have to be in the union is the first thing, in Screen Actors Guild. And I said, okay, well, I can't help you until you're in the union. So if you're serious about it, get in the union, and then we'll talk. And I have had one person out of that 1,000 actually do what it takes to get in the union to do stunts. So everyone says, "Oh yeah, hire me. I want to do stunts," but they don't understand that it's not that easy. And so a lot of people that say they want to do stunts, that they really like. For me, when I decided I want to be a stuntman, and I knew after I read about it and thought about it, and knew here's the way I looked at it. I was either going to be a stuntman or I was going to be pushing a shopping cart underneath a freeway overpass as like a homeless guy. So it was not, I want to be a stuntman. It was, I'm going to be a stuntman, and failure is not an option. So for people that say they want to do stunts, they really got to it's really got to be your life. It's everything you want to do in your life. Yep. And if it's not, then I would say, then that's not the right career for you, because it's not an easy career. Physically you get banged up, and, mentally it's a tough job because it's hard. The hardest stunt is getting the next job. Yeah. And there's a lot of failure. There's a lot of a disappointment. And if you're not equipped to handle that, it's not going to be a good life for, you got to be able to be comfortable with sitting at home and hoping, waiting for the phone to ring. And for me, there's a point in my career where I was like, every day I wasn't working, I was like, I want to be working. And then one day comes along and you're like, I'm so glad I'm not working today. And then as you go along, you get more and more comfortable with that. You got to be careful. So there's a happy medium there somewhere where you can't be too content not working, or else you're not going to get a job. You gotta keep hustling. Yep. But it's nice when you don't feel like you get comfortable that that the phone's going to ring. There's confidence. You just know, because by experience the phone keeps ringing. Yep. Yep. So it's a tough career. Yeah. And there's a lot of disappointment, and there's a lot of why did he get the job and not me? And but you just gotta kind of say, hey, it is what it is, and you got to move forward, and then and hope for the next job. Yeah, no, definitely, no. That's a good again, and a good positive attitude you have about life and in job, and I do. Yeah, if you don't, you're gonna wind up, your brain's you're gonna wind up going crazy. You're gonna drive yourself crazy. Definitely. Right. Okay, Tom. So if people wanted to know more about yourself, the great work that you do, how can they learn more about you? That's a great question, because part of the reason, one of the things I like about being a stuntman is that the anonymity that comes along with it. Like, I've worked with several actors, and I see their life, and they're like almost like prisoners in their own life. And I like coming in and being what I call the real action hero, and doing the stunts, and then going home and being able to go out to dinner and not be harassed by fans. I don't have any desire to be famous. I just like to do the job for the reasons that we talked about. So there's really, the only way you're going to know is if you talk to like Andy Armstrong. You say, "Hey Andy, what's Tom been up to?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I just worked with Tom on so and so, and he did this and blah blah blah." Other than that, good luck.
Fair enough. Right, no, so that's I think that's about it, actually, Tom. So thank you very much for agreeing to chat to me. Really, really cool.
Oh, that was great. Thanks for having me. That was super fun.
Yeah, nice one. Well, you look after yourself, man.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.